So, what do you think we should expect from these two players, Kanthik and KingDanzz?
I'm not too familiar with Kanthik. I'm a big fan of KingDanzz. He's a very aggressive player, so I wouldn't be surprised to see red or yellow from the start here with KingDanzz.
KingDanzz was kind of like popularized the yellow archers deck, so maybe we'll see something like that from him. He had a lot of good successes with it, and both Windstorm Archer is a rare, whilst Origin Sagittarius is an epic, so we might see something like that. It looks like he's going to start with a mono blue deck and Kanthik a red control, which is kind of consistent with what we've seen so far in the tournament as well. It looks like a lot of people are going for the Ludwan decks.
Yeah, I saw something in KingDanzz Mulligan that we haven't seen yet, and that's the Tail of the Old Turtle.
I think Thormund was playing one as well, but that might have been from Spellwheel.
This is going to work out nice with the Sunken Tower, being able to go to the other opposite side and get those Ludwan procs.
Is he going to be able to do it next turn? Not quite, but he will be able to get the Ludwan in a double collection spot, right? Because he needs to create a blue land for Sunken Tower.
Yeah, and structures have summoning sickness, as you would.
Yeah. So it looks like both players are going on opposite sides. How do you feel about this? Do you think Kanthik is going to look to just race here? Or do you think he'll try and contest the Ludwan and deny just deny a bit of value from it?
I think he's just in the red mid opener so far with his hand.
Yeah, and he is going to be able to ping it and play Cypher's Wrath next turn, so there's no... Although Danzz will get some value from it, there's no need to contest it with minions right now. But I think it's always going to be very dangerous when you give KingDanzz these spots between the two wells. He gets a Ninja Toad from Ludwan.
Yeah, that's a nice pickup.
That's going to be able to deal with the Axe Grinder really nicely. Maybe a couple of turns from now. And this is really nice from KingDanzz. Just playing the Ruby Fish as a kind of backup to Ludwan if that does get taken out.
Yeah, there's no combination of Faeria or cards that can take them both out.
Yeah, unless he had Flame Burst. But yeah, Kanthik, as we'd imagine, using the Derelict Tower to take out the Ludwan, which is more action than I think I've ever seen from Derelict Tower in an actual ranked game. And Danzz, unlike Aquablad in the previous game, has actually been able to get some procs for his Wavecrash Colossus, so that's going to come out a lot cheaper than Aquablad was forced to use. And I think against red, that's going to be a really strong card.
Yeah, the 7 health, it outreaches everything that red creatures have to offer besides Volcanic Colossus.
So Kanthik is going to look to want to somehow get a red tile near to this Gabriel Noble, so that he can bomb slinger it. What do you think the best way of going about this would be? Oh, so actually, he can actually do this now. I think that this potentially was a mistake from KingDanzz, which is not something you regularly hear. Kanthik also has the opportunity to play Ground Shaker to just take out the Ruby Fish. So which one do you think is more important here? I think it's really close.
I would think the Ground Shaker might give him more value.
Oh
Well,
yeah, he
he's got
has
the
the derelict tower.
derelict tower, so
Yeah.
yeah, never mind.
So because Dan's kind of made this move that land here for to put his wave crash on, he actually gets punished by the opponent's bomb slinger, and now Dan's is in a really tricky spot. Oh, he's playing Wavecrafter. That's a really interesting one. So Wavecrafter is going to set both players' fair area to 3 at the end of Kanthik's turns. Right now, both players are on a similar amount of fair area, but maybe KingDanzz thought in the mirror his opponents are going to be playing cisterns, so he has a really cheeky way of denying those cisterns.
That's an interesting point.
These Battletoads for KingDanzz are going to do a pretty good job of contesting the 4-1. And it just gets him back on the board when he was in a bit of a tricky spot, and now it looks a lot less bad for him.
Yeah, Kanthik isn't going to have a board left after this turn.
Yeah, I'm wondering if he's going to... Okay, that's interesting. I was wondering whether he would kind of try and set up a ground shaker and ping to finish off the frog next turn. But I quite like this play as well. Danz can only collect from 1 well, so Kanthik's still not in the worst position.
Danz can get a lot of value off his Mirror Phantasm on this turn if you chose to.
Yeah, he can, and this is going to be big if he does, but I guess he wants to play around Ground Shaker, so he decides to... He also plays around Cypher's Wrath, so he plays the Phantasm on the 7-2. I guess Firestorm is something else that he's really has to consider. So yeah, really smart play from Danz.
Yeah, here he is back in between those wells again.
Yeah, and this is something that maybe Kanthik will pay for by focusing so heavily on one side, playing it kind of like a mid-range list. Now he has no lands anywhere near this Mirror Phantasm, and it's probably going to be able to double collect all game. Cartographer is a interesting choice for Kanthik. What do you think of that?
He might have been thinking he can use it in tandem with the Bomb Slingers.
Oh yeah, that's a very smart observation. Yeah, because so many Bomb Slingers get value just because people forget that they have Explore. So yeah, I think that's a really nice addition.
I think what we just saw was the turning point of this game, though.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a real struggle for Kanthik to get back into this. The Wavecrafter is going to give him some fair area, though. So I find it pretty interesting that Danz decides to play this rather than setting up, say, an aggressive lake and play Mystic Beast. Axe Grinder here is pretty good for Kanthik. It's such an efficient minion. It's going to just cause a few problems for KingDanzz. If he trades into both of these, which would be against any color that isn't red, those are the trades that you'd probably want to make. You'd be pretty happy, but because red has access to Ground Shaker, they're not really trades that you're super excited about. I guess Kanthik he was really hoping
1 health.
Yeah, that would leave both of these at 1 health, and then they would both just give way too much value to Ground Shaker. It looks like Danz is going to do it and just pray he doesn't have it. Sets up some Battletoads just as a kind of backup. So yeah, Danz decides.
I was just going to say he's still going to be able to use the Tell the Turtle next turn.
Yeah,
he got some bodies on board first.
Yeah, he's probably hoping to draw into Banquet. I would imagine here that Kanthik will play Ground Shaker and then play use the last ping on his Derelict Tower to take out one of the frogs.
Actually, it looks like he could take out both the frogs.
Yeah. So maybe even playing a red tile over here to protect himself from Banquet on the Mirror Phantasm, and try to just win in 2 turns. This will... He won't actually be able to set up a 2-turn clock, unfortunately, unless he plays the Cartographer in somewhere aggressive. And he decides to put it in between the wells instead, which I can get behind.
Wow. He's made an excellent effort to come back here.
Yeah. This has been a really back and forth game, which I think has been really exciting. Wave Crash is going to be pretty much the best card that Danzz could have picked up this turn. He decides to play it defensively, which challenges the Ground Shaker nicely. What are your thoughts here on this spot? I think Kanthik's in a really difficult situation here.
Yeah, he's just out of reach here. He's got 6 damage going to face this turn.
Yeah.
Well,
so I guess he just hopes that Danzz doesn't manage to draw a Banquet. Unbound is going to be enough on the 5/3 Phantasm. Just to...
Yeah, because it'll guarantee get 6 attacks, so that's a good pickup.
Yeah. But we have to remember that Kanthik is playing a burn list, so there's a lot of good draws that he can get. Maybe Scourge Flame Spectre, maybe... Maybe he gets Scourge Flame Spectre, maybe he just gets double Flame Burst. With Danzz being so low health, he's still got to be very worried.
Yeah, I spoke too soon earlier.
So it looks like Danzz is deciding where to set up the Wave Crash Colossus. And instead of putting it aggressively, he decides to put it defensively. Cypher's Wrath is such a good pickup here. I imagine we'll see a draw. Ooh, Bloodstone Sprite. So, can he get this anywhere where it's safe?
No. No.
No, it doesn't look like it. So it looks like he's going to wait until next turn and then try and find maybe Flame Burst, and...
He may regret that, because it does deny 1 fairy to take out the 1 health Wave Crash, and I wouldn't put it beyond KingDanzz to Phantasm or Unbound.
We might see a Phantasm on the Wave Crash just to deny the Cypher's Wrath.
The Unbound, we need to check that, though, because I think one of these are a 2-cost Wave Crash.
This is a 4-cost Wave Crash. So 6 cost is still, in general, pretty good. But I think we've already seen him use 1 Phantasm, and he could actually set up an aggressive Phantasm if he plays it in the well in the bottom left corner. On the lake bottom left. That might be something he chooses to do.
Yeah, you've got to be wary of leaving your creatures at 2 health at this point.
Yeah, I imagine he's worried that he's on a bit of a clock right now. Okay, so this way actually sets up a guaranteed 2-turn kill if he can't deal with either of these creatures. Fortunately for Kanthik, he can remove the Mirror Phantasm with Bombslinger Cypher's Wrath. But that means he doesn't get to draw a card.
That would buy him another turn, so...
Yeah, I think
he's... Still get 2 more cards for that Flame Burst.
He's forced into doing this. And
I think he was debating on whether to play that Bloodstone Sprite.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think if you are Kanthik, then you know that. Well, he wouldn't have had the. Would he have had the fairy to do everything? I don't think he would have. Would he? He'd
No,
be one fairy
because he would have
off.
had to have +1. Yeah, he would have had a +1. But I
Yeah,
think
but
he's
he
debated
needed.
on not collecting here. Yeah, he's not going to collect with the cartographer, not only to keep it safe, but I think he's thinking that he can get a ping off the Bloodstone Sprite next turn
Right. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
maybe find a
And then
Seifer's Wrath.
ciphers would be lethal. Yeah.
Yeah. So that opens up another line for him. So very conscious play there.
Yeah. Ooh.
Wow.
Gets a Scourge Flame. That's going to be huge. Puts him down to just 1 health after this.
All right, here we go.
Bomb Slinger's not going to be enough, so he's going to have to draw. And Axe Grinder's not going to be enough. So,
Nope.
unless we've missed anything, it looks like Danz is going to take what's been a really close back and forth game.
Yeah. Very entertaining.
Yeah, that was very exciting. Not the sort of game that you see so much anymore.
Yeah, I liked it. I liked the back and forth. We talk a lot about the snowbally meta lately, and it's kind of stagnated into the mono colored decks, and you got to see a player be able to come back a couple times actually. And I also want to comment on the value that he got off of cartographers, and now we see him in KingDanzz hand as well.
Yeah, it looks like
those
GUI
cartographers
deck. Yeah, so green yellow sack. It doesn't have access to Demon Wrangler, nor does it have access to Elderwood Hermit. So I wasn't sure that we'd see a lot of it in this format, but the Soul Eater is such a powerful card. And I guess you still have Yak Attacks, you still have Deathwalkers and Shaitan Assassins, so really smart call here to bring this sort of deck from KingDanzz. How do you think it matches up against Kanthik's blue deck?
Well, if Kanthik manages his resources right and keeps those Unbound Evolutions and the Mirror Phantasms, he could handle the Soul Eaters. So we'll see if KingDanzz has another, like a Tethra. Well, sorry, Tethra's a legendary. See if he has other big threats. So
yeah, we see the Grave Guardian here from KingDanzz, which is not something you generally see with GUI sacks. So maybe it's kind of, it still has strong sack elements, but it also just splashes a bit more of the really solid spine that green has.
that's a good word for it. I also want to comment on the Bloom Sprite. That's a way to work around this format. He could get it. He could get that Tethra.
Yeah, maybe we'll see Runin's Messenger as well. So Dan's opening with all 3 forests and playing the Grave Guardian on the same side as the Gabriel Cistern. I guess it's not going to matter so much right now, but it looks like he's playing this very defensively, and he's not going to do anything until he's just going to play his lands, and then he'll get a good Soul Eater. And we see the Altar of Souls.
Yeah, you mentioned that. I heard you mention that at the beginning of the broadcast.
Yeah. So, do we think that he's going to be playing Weeping Idol? Or is it more likely to be stuff like Fairy Tree, or maybe even Overgrown Tower or something?
I don't think you have a better opportunity than this format right here to play Weeping Idol.
Yeah.
We'll see what his taste is for it, though.
I really hope we see it. That's such a... It's such a cool deck that unfortunately isn't quite at the power level to see a lot of play. I've seen a few people play it. Mirror Phantasm off the Ludwan could be very big here.
as I mentioned before, as the blue player manages their resources right, they can handle these Soul Eaters
Yeah,
pretty easily, and he
and
just got an extra one.
he gets an excellent trade with his Battletoad to protect his Ludwan from any tricks that King Danzz might have. Um, do you think there's any need for him to play anything else here? I'm just wondering whether he's going to play the Phantasm that he just picked up. He's already at 17 Faria thanks to the Gabriel Cistern.
I don't know. The frog would die to the Grove Guardian either way,
Yeah.
but if he phantasmed it, he gets that extra power on board. He's gonna choose not to.
Yeah, I guess you know that your opponent can't have um, you know that your opponent can't have things like Falcon Dive or say Silent Horsemaster. So I guess the reason he would do this would be to protect his Ludwan. But there's no real way that Danzz has available to him to actually kill the Ludwan. Just updating the score. So yeah, we're at 1-0 to KingDanzz, right?
Yes, and we see value on top of value here with a 4-cost Till the Turtle, 25 Faria. He's getting this Ludon is doing a ton of work here, proccing not only itself but the Wave Crash Colossuses, and churning out 5-cost Mirror Phantasms and 4-cost Till the Turtles.
Yeah, it's also, yeah, as you say, it's also proccing the Wave Crash Colossi, and he's gonna play Daring Adventurer, and he can actually get quite a bit of value from it here. It will be in the line of fire of the Shaitan Assassin, but 6/6 to 4 isn't too bad.
You could debate whether phantasming that assassin might be a decent play, because he would still be required to trade
Okay,
both creatures into the
so
Daring Adventure.
here he plays. Oh wow, he knows that this is going to be a minimum of 6 attack, so he's going really all in on this. If he chooses to do it, I don't think you can play all of this and then decide to back out of it because you've just given yourself such a bad trade. Loses the 50-50, unfortunately for him.
Okay, he did do the
He did do
Phantasm
that,
on the assassin. Oh.
but now he doesn't have any answers to Soul Eater when that comes out, so he needs to be drawing quite aggressively to look for them.
You think Danzz takes out the Ludwan while he's got a chance?
Yeah, I think it's pretty important to take out the Ludwan. It's already got so much value.
Or he could Vine Wall there, but yeah, there you go.
Oh, Vinewall is a common, so not allowed in this format.
Well, he got
did
it
it
off
cut
of
from? Oh, it came from Bloomsprite.
Bloom Sprite.
Yeah. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. So yeah, like you were saying, this is a way you can cheat the format, but I think he probably would prefer Tetherer to Vinewall.
I would think. I bet if you polled most players, they would agree with you.
Wavegrash Colossus is going to come down. One defensively, one aggressively. Pretty standard. I really like this play. I think he puts down under a lot of pressure.
Yeah, and he set up. He knew this, last turn. Whenever he kind of really pushed the board, some people might scoff at that a really aggressive play, but then you go, well, I didn't know what you had in your hand. I see why you played so aggressively. You can follow it up with another wave of attack.
Yeah. And this Vine Wall is really going to be. It's going to slow kanthik down quite significantly. Really smart play again by Danzz.
Yep.
The Vine Wall will slow him down to start off with, and then he'll be able to get a really efficient trade, both with the Slaughtering Shadow into the Wave Crash, perhaps with the aid of Grave Guardian, and he's also going to get the efficient trade on the left-hand side in the battle for the 2 wells.
Yeah, I think kanthik needs to start thinking about setting up a gathering force.
Yeah, do you think he just plays Mystic Beast here. It's a 4/5. It'll get jump. It can just add a little bit of something to the right hand side.
Yeah.
It looks like
Well, you
he's
could also
losing
play
the left.
Battletoads too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, you could play Battletoads though too.
yeah. Sadly, you can't deny this this really good trade that KingDanzz gets. And this is what the way Dan set that up was because he knew that there's no possibility for Falcon Dive. He can be extra greedy with those trades, and it's going to work out really well for him here.
He could have had a Ninja Toad.
Yeah, it's true.
Ninja Toad used to be a really popular card back in the preseason.
Yeah, it was used quite a lot in the old red blue deck. That Dan's
Yes.
probably one of the best players in the game.
Yeah, he won $2,500 with that deck.
But Dan's hand is a bit clunky. He has 2 5/5 Soul Eaters. You probably want a bit more value than that from them. But you do have to bear in mind that you expect Kanthik to have answers. So maybe he's not too unhappy if he can find a decent spot for them, just dropping them as 5/5 and allowing them to grow on the board.
I like that he waits here. He doesn't force a trade. He's building tension on the board.
He gets slightly worse trades this way. Well, the trades that he's offering Kanthik are okay. Maybe the 7/7 into the 5/6 at least. I think Kanthik's. He'd really love this Phantasm that's sitting in the bottom right hand corner to be in more of an action position. But I don't see any immediate way that he can get it there. I think he may choose to just play a lake somewhere. Just somewhere that covers all of KingDanz's deserts. Yeah, so I was just thinking, because Altar of Souls is going to be producing these 6/1s, you kind of want your Battletoads in positions where they can take them out very efficiently. So I'm a little bit surprised that Kanthik didn't consider doing that, or consider making another lake just to contest them. He may now play the Triton Banquet on the 4/5 Mystic Beast just to deal with one of them. I'm not sure if it's worth it. Yeah, so now the Battletoads are kind of out of position, and he's given his opponent fairly decent trades with these Slaughtering Shadows. We should be bound to see some more structures coming out soon, so both players kind of halfway through their decks. We've only seen, I think, one structure each, or maybe we saw 2 from Kanthik. Oh, KingDanzz playing Ruined Shrine. That makes a lot of sense as well. And this could actually be a really big pickup here for KingDanzz. Playing the Shrine and getting 2 free trades with his 6/1s.
Yeah, that's what he needs right here. Kanthik's still going to be harvesting at a decent clip.
Yeah, he's still harvesting all 4 wells right now. So I don't think he's going to be too sad with his position, but one by one, all of his board presence is just being eradicated by these Slaughtering Shadows. And he still has to remember that he's going to have to find a way to deal with Soul Eaters at some point.
Right.
So Dan's is going to be very happy to just play this control game.
We saw Dan's with Runin's Command earlier too, so the life as a resource is virtually unlimited right here, as long as he maintains control. which he's done a nice job of.
Sadly, it doesn't look like we're going to be seeing Weeping Idol, because we've seen the shrine. Uh,
Right.
but maybe it's still possible. Maybe he doesn't play 3 Altar of Souls. Maybe he doesn't play 3 shrines. We can dream.
You notice he got an extra trade in off of the shrine by taking out a frog last turn as well.
Yeah,
So,
right. Oh, that's very smart. That's something that quite a lot of people miss because you just see the big threats that you want to take out, and you just miss
yeah.
the small ones. And it's kind of an accumulation of those small edges that make Danzz such like the great player that he is. Kanthik's hand is really tricky here. Looks like he's just playing. He gets the Phantasm into a position that is more able to do
Yeah.
something it wants to, but at the same time, he's used up most of his Faria. He's still got quite. Well, I don't think he's going to be too sad with this position, but he probably will be once the Soul Eater comes down.
Yeah. Yeah, Dan's has to put one of those down right now to contest. Because he can't get 7 Faria and play a shrine.
Yeah. Kanthik's not going to be too happy. Like, he has a 6/6 Phantasm, but that's just going to trade for a Slaughtering Shadow, which isn't really ideal for him. Double Phantasm from Tail of the Old Turtle could be crucial here.
How do you get the Faria for it? Any double sunken tower tricks that you see?
I think. I think you want to move back with the. Oh, he actually takes out the. He takes out the Altar of Souls with the Phantasm, which I think is okay, but at the same time, you know that Phantasm is going to die, and it's one of the few things you've got left right now. Whereas he could have just tried to collect and then maybe try and set up the Gabriel Cistern, which is possibly his best chance of getting into this. And if he's leaving his Phantasm to get killed by the Slaughtering Shadow, it's going to be pretty painful for him. The one thing he has on his side is Danzz is a bit Faria starved right now.
Right. Danzz could collect in +1 and save that Slaughtering Shadow, but I suppose it's not. With the Royal Judge, I meant.
Danzz sees that Kanthik's only on. He's only on 1 Faria. He can get to 6, but after this turn, if Kanthik can't repopulate the board, it's difficult to see how he gets a presence that can remain on the board permanently.
I think with both these sunken towers, if you don't use these resources now, you're not going to have them. You definitely have to take 1 Faria away from Danzz, from the cartographer.
Yeah.
By moving it in.
I think the Phantasm on his Soul Eater makes a lot of sense, and then try and set up.
Yeah.
Maybe put it in a position where he can banquet it next turn and get a favorable trade.
Yeah, and keeping in mind with the sunken tower, in tandem with that plan, next turn.
These sunken towers just add so many dimensions to the game. It's really difficult for both players to kind of optimize the positioning of their minions. But the thing with this format is blue just doesn't have a good way to deal with these cartographers or 1/1s in general.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, there's no Falcon dives.
Decides.
Yeah, he did do it.
Decides to play the Phantasm on his 5/5 rather than KingDanz's Soul Eater. How do you feel about this?
Well, he's got another Phantasm in hand, and he splits up the board. Now Danzz will not be able to take care of both of these, presumably, on 3 Faria this turn. So he has to choose which one. I mean, he'll probably most likely take out, yeah, because that's a 3 fairy swing there if he doesn't.
Yeah,
But now Kanthik can use the banquet.
Kanthik's going to get really punished by the second Soul Eater though. I mean, Dan's is only at he's only at 12 life, so maybe Kanthik decides to just play Banquet on his Phantasm and try and race. Um, I think that
Yeah,
will be his best bet here.
yeah, that'd be a 2-turn clock.
Yeah. So then Dan's will probably play the Shrine, and then
Shrine. Yeah.
yeah, that'll be what saves him. But I think Kanthik really has to consider this. Does he want to Phantasm the 11/11, or does he want to just go for the 2-turn clock?
He could +1 and or he could unbound first the big one.
Yeah, that's an interesting point.
Yeah.
Sadly, he doesn't have enough area for both Unbound and Banquet to face.
Right.
It looks like he's gonna just try and race, I think. Based on where he moved the Soul Eater.
Right. Ooh.
He misses one attack, so... Okay, so he decides to race using the second Phantasm. This is a really smart play.
Yeah.
Again, I think he's going to get punished by the Ruin Shrine. But yeah, I really like this play from Kanthik. It gives Dan's 2 threats that he has to deal with.
Right.
And unfortunately for Kanthik, Dan's has a way of doing it, either using...
Right.
Well, I assume that he'll play Shrine.
Well, he could sack the cartographer and basically get a Deathwalker for free. I wonder why he didn't collect there.
I think he wants the Phantasm next to face so he can start racing.
Okay.
So we see the Ruina's Command come down, I think, and then... This way...
Okay, I like this.
Yeah, this way... Kanthik really can't... He can't kill Dan's, he can't take out the Soul Eater. It's really going to be difficult for him to do anything. And he knows that he's on a clock. So, yeah.
Now, if he had a Royal Judge in hand, he could have punished the cartographer, and that would have gotten rid of the Ruin Shrine. Interestingly enough.
Yeah, I think that this was an excellent play by Kanthik to just play the Banquet and go face to deal with that. Dan's needs something in hand to deal with this, to deal with the Phantasm. Chooses not to just use the Royal Judge to proc it, unless he's going to use the wheel. Oh, this is a really smart play again. But we have to say Kanthik has dealt with both of the Soul Eaters. So...
Right.
No. Kanthik just concedes.
Kudos to Kanthik. That was an excellent effort.
He fought really well in both of those games. I'm really impressed with the way that both players played.